Hello and welcome to Alternate Image Gaming. I'm Chardon, and this is a solo episode of Tarkov Talks, a show where we play Tarkov and talk about things that are generally not Tarkov. Think of it like a podcast with a chance of murder. Today, the chance of me getting murdered goes up as I reveal the world's biggest and most obvious supervillain, Elon Musk. Musk is clearly planning a takeover of the world, and he isn't even really trying to hide it. Let's break down each phase of his plan so far. We'll start with the most boring of his companies. This joke too easy? This joke is too easy. It's the boring company. They do tunnels. Now I think right now they're mostly just sitting around Los Angeles, and they're trying to set up a tunnel system under Los Angeles for high-speed travel. But a tunnel system under a major metropolitan area also kind of sounds like an evil villain's secret lair? Or a plan to sink a major metro into the ocean, or any number of kind of silly, cartoonishly level villain things. But pun aside, that is the lamest of the company so far when it comes to the super villainhood, which I guess could make it the sneakiest. That's really not the focus. Now the next one, the little obvious bit we'd have here is Tesla. The Tesla does two things. It does cars and it does power. Now for power, it's mostly into solar, and the cars, obviously, it has the electric vehicles with the self-driving. What? No, what happened here? This is a weird death here. Somebody in this room got murdered. They look like they got executed. But anyway, so the Teslas. The self-driving cars, now that's a pretty obvious one. When you control the self-driving cars, take over the grid, kind of crazy havoc, like that one Fast and the Furious movie kind of did it really awkwardly. And for the solar, now that gives them some form of at least access to a significant portion of the power grid, yeah? I wouldn't say control over it, because it's not that kind of system, but the beginnings of, and who's saying they don't expand that power control into something a little bit bigger. The next one is where it starts to get a little big in scope. SpaceX. One of his other companies, they do two things, obviously. They go to space, so there's plans for colonies to future planets. There's plans to trips to space for commercial users. There is, of course, satellite launches. One thing that SpaceX has done with their satellites, of course, is give us the internet service through that. So there are, at this point, hundreds, if not thousands, of Elon Musk satellites out there in the world doing their thing. And that's of course great. I've heard his signal isn't too bad, decent data speeds and whatnot. But again, that's more control potential and more ways to mess with things. And of course, controlling the interface that talks to potentially the self-driving cars. Since again, a lot of the Teslas have automatic data updates and that sort of thing. Now, the satellites are an easy information control, easy data control. But then SpaceX, space conquest, maybe taking over the world isn't everything that Elon Musk is into, and he actually would like to take over the galaxy. Any supervillain really has to aim big, right? Of course, space gives access to resources. They kind of estimate that one of the first trillionaire, not one of, but the first trillionaire that comes will probably be somebody who manages to harvest a meteor or an asteroid. Just the massive amount of untapped resources out there. Which, actually, thinking about it, kind of goes back to the boring company. So this is a little bit Armageddon plot here, but you take the people that are able to drill and dig, combine those with somebody maybe could harvest instead, along with spaceflight, and he has 2 out of 3 parts of harvesting things in space. So SpaceX, definitely part of the master plan to take over the world and our galaxy. Now, this one's a little bit the most devious, perhaps, of all the options. Neuralink. Want to tap into your brain, which just by itself is kind of evil villainish, right? A little bit of a supervillain plan. He wants to tap into your brain. He wants to get access to it. He wants to use your brain to control things. But that kind of access can kind of go both ways, right? So he taps in, you get access to, do things which, obviously the goal here is for medical necessities, for people that have been paralyzed to be able to have use of limbs, even if they're prosthetic of some sort, to feel that. And that, of course, is great for those people until Elon Musk then takes over their robotic bodies with his Neuralink mind control devices. And it's a little bit problematic. It could be a stretch. But is it? And we can never really know until it actually happens. The other interesting thing about Neuralink, and I was watching Elon Musk and Joe Rogan on Joe Rogan's podcast. This is some years ago now, and he discussed the reason he wanted Neuralink. One of the main points, and obviously he didn't mention the plans. We have another body. Oh, and there's somebody. We'll go check that out. Well, he of course didn't mention any nefarious plans, but what he did say is that he believes that artificial intelligence is going to take over the world, is going to be a real threat to humanity, and he wants Neuralink to be a way that humans can interface with that AI. And that's kind of interesting, because he wants us to be able to interface with that AI so that the AI doesn't completely destroy humanity. Now, this could be, maybe he's doing something good. He's actually trying to protect us from the real big bad out there of artificial intelligence, or he wants it to seem like the Neuralink is helping save us from artificial intelligence, when in reality, it is going to be what allows artificial intelligence into our brains to take us over. Back to the Neuralink mind control strategy, but it might be bigger than just him. Maybe he's working for the evil robots? It's hard to say. The last bit is really what sent this over the edge for me. What made me go, okay. So he's really not even attempting to hide his tendencies towards global domination. And he bought Twitter. And as of the time of this recording, that's still in flux. It's still, I honestly have no idea the technicalities that go into buying billion-dollar companies, but all the news reports he bought it. It's obviously not just a done deal. It's not like going to the store, you snap something up. But Twitter is one of the major social medias, a major place to communicate with the masses, to influence public opinion. So if you wanted to, say, get a large group of people who are okay with Neuralink getting hooked up to mind control, how would you influence them? And then on top of just having access to Twitter as a platform to communicate, they have a massive amount of analytics on how people work, how they think, how they respond to data as one of their means of targeting people with their messages, with their recommendations. So now he has the data on what you want, what you like, how you deal with this sort of thing. The way to communicate with the general public in order to convince them to do different things. He has a technology he's working on that can interface you with potentially hostile artificial intelligences that, by his own admission even for that one, but with speculation to, do nefarious purposes, take control. Now, of course, we go back to Tesla, second option I mentioned. Again, that is more options for control, for taking control of the primary means of transportation, in at least the United States, given that our public transportation is fairly weak. And once you have automated cars, public transportation becomes less necessary to an extent, cost being a different issue. But those cars could eventually be co-opted to the point that individuals didn't have to own them because they can drive themselves. Automated taxi systems, personal public transportation in a way. That's an entirely different talk I'd like to get into. But when all of those Teslas, all over the place, being controlled by the satellites from SpaceX, powered with minerals that he's gotten from space, potentially, and then maybe using these intricate tunnel systems that he has carved out under our major cities, What can't he do? So, I mean, really, all of this feels kind of obvious. It feels like a bad plot to a movie, where everybody would see and just go, there's no way people didn't realize this guy's a villain. I mean, look at him. Look what he's doing. He's practically hitting up a villain playbook of to-do lists. But he's doing it. And we're all letting him. And a lot of people like Elon. The main reason I actually even watched the Joe Rogan podcast, I have strong opinions about him either direction, was because of the interview with Elon. It was a very interesting interview at that point also. And he's got a way of talking which makes him sound like he's just trying to help. The Boring Company is to help tunnels to ease traffic and big congested cities. Tesla is for, renewable energy, self-driving cars that'll have limited accidents. SpaceX for communication for the world and for space exploration for mankind. Neuralink to help people connect with their brains in ways that weren't before possible. And I actually have no idea why he wants to buy Twitter. I haven't really heard that one. Maybe it's hard to admit you're wanting to buy Twitter for anything not nefarious. But that is the end of the run. That is the end of the talk. I made it out alive. I kind of expected some sort of AI in here to get me. But here we are. So again, like, subscribe, do all that sort of thing. I expect the 6 will be back next time. But have a nice day and try not to have your mind controlled by Elon Musk.